I can't get my words out very well. I'm with a guy. You might know him, you might not. His name's Lee Pryor.
Hello.
He has the largest window cleaning company in the UK. Well, we believe it's the largest domestic anyway, window cleaning company in the UK.
That isn't a franchise.
That isn't a franchise, and he wants to be on a video. How amazing is that? And he's going to show us around. He's going to show you what is actually possible, because that's the whole point of this video. I wanted to get out there what is actually possible in your window cleaning. If you want to build a big business, it is doable, and Lee's proven that it's doable. So Lee's going to show us around. He's going to give you some little hints and tips along the way, and he's going to tell you basically his story. So we're going to go and have a look around.
Put your money to work with Trading 212. Buy stocks with zero commission and zero fees.
Download a free audiobook with your 30-day trial.
Okay, Dan, thanks for coming down. As Dan's just said, everybody watching this, the point of this video is to show that as a residential window cleaners, we don't do any commercial work, residential window cleaning businesses can be scaled up. There's lots of talk on forums about whether you should or shouldn't and why bother, you know, but the idea of this video is to just show, here's an example of one person's business that decided to go more than being just a single operator. So essentially we operate 12 vans. We've just ordered 3 more, which are coming by the end of the year. When they arrive and start working, our annual turnover will be in the region of £1.25 million, which I believe makes us the largest residential window cleaning company in the UK that isn't a franchise. If there's somebody out there that would like to challenge me on that, I'd be happy to talk to them. But what we're going to show you today is just a little tour of our premises, our vehicles, the static system that makes our water, our office. Some of you may know me and may have seen that in other videos that I've done, but Dan's going to do a professional version of it today, which I haven't been able to do because I'm not so good with YouTube videos. And then we're going to have a bit of a chat about my journey and my goals and the reasons for why I do what I do. But let's take a look at our static system. Now, some of you may have watched Dan's video recently where he saw Dave and his nice system where he sells water. Dave, if you're watching, it really annoys me that yours is bigger than mine. But ours is a 16-ton system, so 16,000 litres, professionally installed system to supply enough water for our vans day to day and vans that we may have in the future. We also sell this water like Dave does in his video for a similar price to what you may be familiar with Spotless water, but only because we have surplus amounts of water each day, and we now have about 20 people that come to buy our water. So let's take a look in here at the system. So our tanks are 3,200 litres, of which we have 5 of those connected together. If I switch the light on down here, you might be able to see down to the bottom a bit easier. So 5 all linked together, they all empty and fill as a single unit. We have the actual machine itself over here, which is a mains booster pump first. We may be able to see that down here. So this boosts from the mains along to the softener stage. This is the softener stage here. We've got softener resin in here, and we add the salt into this bucket here that creates brine water that softens the water, so there's no calcium going into the RO. A lot of people don't have a softener before their RO, but you could argue it's the most important pre-filter. Everyone has a carbon and sediment filter and things like that, but when you actually look more into the science of it, a softener is actually probably the better choice. So that's a fully automated softener system. One bottle softens the water while the other one recharges itself, and that's automatic. And then we're on to the sort of twin RO setup. This does have a carbon and sediment filter down here. Very familiar in our industry, people have seen these. and then that is also boosted. Very powerful booster pump at the back here, up to about 250 psi after the mains booster, which takes the mains up to 80 psi. And then we've got twin 40-inch ROs, and then into the 25 litre DI, and then into the tanks. But this system, actually I believe Dave in your other video, Dan, has this same model. I spotted that in your video, but this is a completely computer automated setup, so it flushes itself, it monitors if there's low pressure and cuts out. It's programmed to be on or off at certain times of the day, and our system produces 12 to 13 litres of pure water a minute, but only wastes 2 to 3 litres. So it's a very high pure to waste ratio, and actually produces out of the ROs at such good quality, you could argue that you don't need the DI. It usually produces at about 1 part per million, but we still use the DI. Obviously we're selling the water, so we want to make sure that you know, it's pure. Obviously we use it ourselves every day. And then we've got this stainless steel rack here, which is bolted to the floor with our transfer pumps, and these are fuel grade hoses. We actually have a digital flow meter on this one, and this is where we measure the water that we're selling. People pull up and we pump it for them and charge them accordingly. So 2 vans can fill at the same time. This is fixed to the floor, very solid. So this is where we produce our pure water, and this is a ton of salt, exactly 1,000 kilos of salt. We put one of these bags into the machine every couple of days to keep up with the softening stage, and then we just have racks here of all the sorts of spare parts that our window cleaners might need: spare poles, brushes, hoses, all the consumable things. And one of my jobs here is to keep that all stocked up, so our team can help themselves to that. Okay, so all of our vans are Renault Trafics. We have actually some Vauxhall Vivaros, but as you may know, they're the same van, and we have one Renault Master. But generally it's the Renault Trafic that we have. All of our systems are from Ionic Systems. They're just delivery units, so no filtration on board, as we've just seen. That all happens in the depot, but our systems are 700 litre delivery units, single pump and controller, with you know, the familiar pole racks. Our poles are Gardner SLX range. All of our vans have 3 SLX poles, 22, 30 and 45, 47-ish for the longer ones. This particular van has a gutter vac kit in it, so we see the generator for that, and the sort of carbon poles and heads for the gutter vac. The vac itself is on the other side of the tank, and the vac we use is the pneumatic vacuum sold by Gripper Tank, and obviously other suppliers sell the same vacuum. We feel that that is a reliable unit versus the sort of power. There are others like yours, Dan, that are more powerful, but obviously quite a lot more expensive, and we try to give our staff quality equipment, but not necessarily the full luxury spec of things. Although you could argue, versus some people's systems, this would be considered a luxury setup. But it's the same in all of our vans, apart from the Renault Master, which has a 1,000 litre 2-man setup, and we tend to use that van more as a spare van or as a training van when 2 people need to work in that. Let's take a look in the office. Welcome to the Nerve Centre. Again, some people watching may have seen into my office before. It's very warm in here suddenly. We'll leave the door open. So it's only a small little office, but there's 3 of us that work in here. I have 2 ladies that work for me. Joe and Karen sit here all day. They tend to do all the customer service, day-to-day admin. And by the time your business reaches this sort of size and your customer base, our customer base is approaching 7,000 homes. We don't do any commercial work, it's all people's homes. Sort of approaching 7,000. It's likely that by the end of the year it will be 7,000 or beyond, and that sort of equates to £1.25 million, as I said, as a turnover figure. We need this many people in here. We could actually do with a few more actually at the moment, where we have so much day-to-day admin as well as processing new customers. This is what these ladies do for me, sort of full-time, day in, day out. And then my office here, I tend to do more of the financial side of the business, the marketing side of things. My job is looking after the fleet of vehicles, the servicing schedule, all the equipment we have, the water machine. So I tend to do that stuff. So, you know, people talk about getting off the tools in their business. meaning they're not cleaning windows anymore, but I've actually taken that another stage. I'm also now off the office tools, so I, for example, never answer the phone, but I let the girls do all of that. And then, you know, on the walls here we have a series of whiteboards. This particular one monitors the money side of things. So we can see our cleaners' names across the top, and Monday to Friday, or Monday to Saturday down the side, and in the main boxes is the turnover for each day. We've actually been a man down. We've actually not had 12 people for a couple of weeks. Someone left. We've just replaced with a trainee who started on Wednesday. So these figures are based on 11 vans in the last week or two. So we can see how much we do per day. So we can see this week we did £22,148, which is a bit lower than we would usually expect. As I say, we've been a man down for a couple of weeks. So a normal week would be, let's say, £25,000 currently. And obviously we've got, this is based on the current amount of vans, and we have 3 more coming. Actually, out of those 3, 2 are additionals, and 1 will create a dedicated spare van, so which we've never had before, and we really needed. So it'll be 14 people working and 1 spare, just so you're aware of that. Obviously there's other numbers on the board which I won't go into, but you can see the sort of figures that our guys generate, and there can be a bit of a mix from one day to the next. This guy did £397 one day and £302 the next day. So as any window cleaner will know, every day is different in terms of traffic and weather and the jobs that you're doing. If anybody spots these 2 very low numbers, these people were on half days yesterday for appointments they had outside of work. Some of the bigger numbers, which we can see in this column, this guy Mark has generated some really good numbers this week, close to £600 that day. He has a gutter vac in his van. In fact, it was his van that I just showed you in the back of, and as some of you will know, gutter work can be quite a bit more lucrative. So we have 3 gutter vacs at the moment that we share around each week between them, so they all get a turn in each month for a week with the bigger numbers, let's say. And then if we go into my office, you can see we have sort of wall-mounted screens where we have a tracking system. RAM tracking is the one we use. People may know this already. And today is Saturday, and if I move this, we can see that we are sort of down this bottom right hand side here, where all the vans outside the depot, and we have one chap who's actually out working. Josh is working today on a Saturday as he's topping up his wages for the month. But I tend to sit here with this on the screen all day, monitoring what's going on. You have to have a keen eye on what everyone's doing when you employ people, but generally I watch this, and the ladies have music on, and then we support the teams that are out there doing the job all day long.
Right, so guys, we're now in Lee's office. Lee just showed us round. As you probably saw, pretty mind-blowing the kind of stuff Lee's getting up to here. What we're going to do is we're going to have a little sit down, and Lee's going to tell you how he started up the business, the stages he went through. Lee also does consultation work, which he wants to get in there. So if you're interested, Lee will talk a bit more about it in a second, but he does a lot of consultation work for people like me. I'm at that stage, if you watch my channel, you'll know, I'm at that awkward stage where I'm like, do I go further with it? Do I take on people? Do I not? I don't know. So Lee's the perfect guy to talk to. So what I'm going to do is set the camera up. We're going to have a little sit down and chat. Lots of value, guys, so make sure you continue to watch. All right, so we've got our coffees, and we're going to go into it. So, Lee, tell us, how did it start? What happened?
Oh, good story. Well, I think so. Well, firstly, I'll just say I'm 39 years old. I started 15 years ago, and I came from a corporate background previously. So I'd never worked for myself, I'd never worked manually, I'd never worked outdoors. I worked in sort of big call centre style offices, hundreds of people, headset on a computer, actually a bit like I do now. I've sort of gone full circle, but story is I was made redundant from that. I thought about working for myself, didn't know what to do, and one day my girlfriend and I were at her parents' house, and I overheard her parents having a conversation in the next room about getting a window cleaner for their house and how hard that was, and how they couldn't find someone or didn't know anyone advertising, didn't know the neighbours had any. And I was listening into this conversation, and my girlfriend and I drove home that evening, and I said to her, I'm going to be a window cleaner. And she laughed and thought I was just joking, because I'd always worked in a suit and tie and in offices, and I'm going to be a window cleaner. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to be a window cleaner. And she laughed. I said, I'm serious. And actually the very next day I went to a cleaning commercial supply shop, let's call it, and bought the bucket on the belt and the squeegees and the pouches, and got a roof rack, put it on the car roof, and got a ladder, and literally just started from nothing. Traditionally, I didn't know about forums where you could learn from other window cleaners. I didn't know about water-fed pole systems. I just got the ladder and the bucket and the squeegee, made my own leaflet on my computer, and literally just made it up as I went along. Went out, knocked on doors, delivered my leaflet, and went up the ladder. That was it. Just made it all up from there. And within 6 months of that, I was earning similar money to that I had earned in my previous job.
Right.
But I obviously loved the freedom that came with it. I remember walking through my local town one day and seeing a guy with a water-fed pole system cleaning a commercial building, and the back doors of the van were open. I could see this thing inside, and pipes and this and that, and I didn't know what it was, and I was like, what's that? It looks like some science experiment, and he had this pole up here with this brush and there's water coming, and I remember thinking, how's he going to dry that? Like, he's doing that, but what, is he going to dry it with something? And I didn't know anything about it, and I remember that very clearly. I saw that, because I hated being on my ladder. I don't mind admitting I was afraid of being up the ladder all day long, but you do what you have to do. And I remember going away and looking into these water-fed pole systems and just scratching my head and thinking, I'm never going to understand what all this is and how this works. And you go from there. And then a few months later, I bought my first van, which was just like what we saw outside, a Renault Traffic with an Ioniq 650 system in, with all the filtration on the van, and just went from there. And
sorry, were you using your car before that?
Yeah. Actually, my nan gave me her car. So when I was made redundant, I got a reasonable payoff for being made redundant. It was a reasonably good job that I'd had for a couple of years, so I got a bit of money for the redundancy, and I had a nice car which I sold. So between those two things, I had sort of enough money behind me to maybe not work for 9 or 10 months of that first year. So it gave me the opportunity to go out and try something, window cleaning or something else, if that didn't work, without the pressure of having to pay for a life. And because I was only in my early mid-20s, I didn't have much debt, no mortgage, that sort of thing. So it was just a question of try this, and if it works, great, and if not, go get a real job.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about getting a real job now. Let's hope that never happens. And then, as I say, about 18 months to 2 years later, I got my first reach and wash system and a nice van, and I got rid of the car at that point, so I didn't have a car, I just had my van, and just built up from there. And actually, since then, the journey's been kind of the same every year. I never reached a point where I was happy to just stop. I kind of always had ideas about things, and what if I could just add another few customers, and there's a gutter vacuum for gutters, I'll have some. I remember the very first time I came across the idea of a gutter vac, I immediately knew that was something I had to have, and obviously you develop and you go from there. And it was really at that point where I started thinking about scaling up, becoming bigger, and over the years I just reinvested all the money I made. I always treat myself to a nice car. People that may have seen my videos or know a bit about me always know that I've always had a nice car and I like a nice holiday, but outside of that, I just reinvested everything that I made. I always worked hard, and I always just tried to come up with ideas to do things differently. I didn't really follow too much on forums, other people saying you should do it this way or that way. I always had my own vision or my own idea of how things should be done, and I just followed that, and the years tick by, and before you know it, you've got that second van or the third van or a premises, and you just go. It's like it's almost not like work. It's like you're working on a hobby almost. It's like a little project to just build this a little bit more in that direction. One of the things I would say to your viewers is people that want to scale up their business, it's very important to understand in yourself the reason why you want to do that. It might be for monetary reasons, partly for me it was, but initially it was more about creating more freedom of my time. I didn't want to be the person that generated all the money in the business. What if you get sick? What if you have an accident, you break your leg? What then? Or you're on holiday for the week and you've got the cost of the holiday plus the cost of not working for the week. I kind of always knew that I didn't want to have it that way for those reasons. It's great when you're in your 20s or 30s and you're fit and you can go and do it, but what about later in life, when you're wearing your body out? So that was my main drive actually. It wasn't all just about money and those things in life, but it was more about removing myself from the day-to-day running of the business. A bit like I just said a minute ago, off the tools is one thing, and I'm kind of almost off the admin tools, let's call it. I don't talk on the phone to customers really, or deal with day-to-day issues with our customer base. I tend to focus on the strategy of the business and the bigger picture of things. But as I say, we just always, I always wanted to push on, and then some of you viewers may or may not know that sort of 4.5 years ago in 2016 I sold my house in order to grow the business up to where we are now. So I'd reached a certain point, and I felt that I kind of knew what I was doing, and I felt I had something here, and I felt that there was a real gap in the market for a substantial business. Lots of people have 2 or 3 vans, or there are lots of like one-man bands or 2 or 3 van businesses, but there was no real £1 million plus business on a substantial scale covering a huge area. Phone's ringing. Hopefully it's a new customer.
Well, just want to say, guys, I was here filming. Before I started filming, I was on the cam. We were talking for about an hour or two. I'm not even exaggerating. It must have been about 12 to 14 jobs or so had come in at that point. That's the scale of this operation. I mean, I'm happy if 14 jobs come in that week. I mean, that's a good week for me. And you just had 14 jobs coming in 2 hours.
Yeah, we're taking, at the moment, we're doing our marketing, which I'll talk about in a minute, but a normal week for new customers joining us right now, and they're all houses, no commercial work, is sort of between 70 and 100 a week currently. Of course we lose some at the same time, so we're not up by 70 or 100 a week, but we're substantially up week on week at the moment. And it's just we're actually drowning in it a little bit in the office at the moment. It's just relentlessly not stopping. But this was part of the scaling up I did when I sold my home, so I wanted to invest a substantial amount of money in the business. I went around the banks, I looked at loans, I thought about things like Dragon's Den, but I sort of felt that they weren't going to give me as much money as I thought I needed, and things like Dragon's Den or stuff like that, you're selling a portion of the equity in your business, you're stake in the business. I didn't want to do that, and actually I don't like other people telling me what to do. I always had my own ideas about how things should be done. And in the end I had the money in my house, and because I wasn't married and had no children, I was able to make the selfish choice financially and sold my home. I actually stored all my things in a lockup and became a lodger in my mother's house for a few months while I looked for a home of my own, which I have a house that I rent actually. And all the equity went into the business and really took us up to the sort of the levels we're at now. Really pushed us forward by injecting that sort of investment and obviously working very, very hard along the way.
That's what I was just saying. These jobs don't just come in from nowhere. You've put so much money, so much time, so much effort out there, haven't you, to get these, like say, these 14 jobs that just come out of a Saturday morning. I don't think people quite realise how much money you kind of have to put in to go this far.
Sure. Well, let me tell you, when I invested for my house, that was nearly £250,000. £220,000 actually. And that was in 2016, and within 12 to 18 months I had spent all of that. And since then we've continued to grow at the same sort of pace. And again, we spend pretty much all the money we would make as profit. So I obviously pay myself as I do, and everything else after that gets reinvested. So talking about this year, we've delivered, as of this week, 1 million leaflets again. So we've done that several times over the years now. Actually, we did 1.5 million in 2019. So 1 million this year. And actually, that chime was another one just dropping. So we just, while we're talking, that chime was another customer. That's a form that's just dropped in from our website with a potential new customer looking to use us. So yes, 1 million leaflets. The cost of doing that is approximately £90,000 that we've spent this year on marketing. It's only leafleting that we do. We find that it's the best solution for the level of business we have now. I don't always advise people to just do leaflets. Different things work better at different stages of the business. That might be another one. It might be. Let me check. Actually, no, that's a cancellation. So I'll be honest, it is a cancellation. So that's a 1 in, 1 out, and that happens. This is what I mean. We can take 70 to 100 a week, but that doesn't mean we're up by that many. That varies week to week. But yes, as I'm saying, different stages of the game, certain types of marketing work better. Once you're at, let's say, I would say probably 6 vans or more, leaflets. Nothing else has ever beaten my leaflet campaigns in terms of return on investment or sheer numbers coming in. So yes, this year 1 million leaflets. That's it for this year as of this week. But that will continue to pour in for a few more weeks or a couple of more months, because that's how it works with leaflets. It's like a snowballing effect, and then it trickles off. But there'll always be a trickle of some sort. It's just whether it's an avalanche or a trickle. Yes, as I say, we reinvest a lot of the money that we make to keep going. Also, we've got these new vans coming, but the return on investment is very, very good. So yes, we do mass leaflet campaigns through Royal Mail, usually 100,000 at a time. Actually, throughout the summer months, we were doing 100,000 every other week. So 200,000 at a time. Jeez. And 200,000 leaflets to print and deliver in my business costs £18,000. Wow. But this year we've spent, so to put it in actual real terms, we've spent £90,000 to increase our annual turnover by about £250,000 this year. Right. People are probably watching going, well, what's the profit? What's the profit? No, I'm not telling. No. But let's just say I wouldn't be spending £90,000 if there was no profit to get back. Yeah. Sometimes it takes a little while to recoup that level of investment, but we have it down to such a formula now. It's just a question of how long can we spend on the phone, quantifying these customers and putting them on the system. All of our customers pay by Go Cardless. I know you've done a few videos on that, and on some forums at the moment there are conversations about going 100% Go Cardless or not. I would suggest to anyone watching this that is thinking about scaling up their business that it's absolutely vital. So all of our customers pay by direct debit. We don't offer any other payment method now for people joining, and we have almost 7,000 people on Go Cardless, which is great. You don't have to worry about cash flow problems, and
because that's the biggest pain point, isn't it, for scaling businesses? Cash flow, because you wouldn't be able to. All these guys need paying at the end of the month. You need to be able to invest in marketing. So knowing you've got that cash flow.
What you find is that as a single operator, your one-man band window cleaner, you have an enormous profit margin. I mean, what's the overhead in that business? It's running your van and your poles and your water, and you're looking after your own van, you're looking after your own poles. It's one of the lowest overhead businesses out there, surely. It's a great little business for one person. But the moment you start going into premises, fleets of vehicles that are on finance, staff, office staff that actually don't generate any money themselves, the VAT bills and whatnot, the profit margin shrinks dramatically. And the more that shrinks, the more important it is to have your cash flow in a positive rate. You know, we absolutely have to know that all the work we do today is in the bank in a week. We simply can't allow Mrs. Jones to go 2 or 3 cleans and then pay the big lump, or you know, Mr. Smith needs to be chased every time for money. You know, even as the one-man band, people have those issues, but they're not such issues when it's a big profit margin and it's you personally. But when you have the responsibility of paying other people's wages, their livelihoods, these are people that work for me with children at home to feed, and it's a big responsibility. You have to have the cash flow. And the number one piece of advice I would give to anybody watching this that wants to push their business forward, or even just improve as the size they are now, is use Go Cardless or something like that. I know there are others out there. I can't think of the names of. There's a couple. I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but something like that is very, very important actually. I just think also, other than that sort of piece of advice, I think it's important to say that if you're going to try to scale up your business, it's very important to do what I call doing things properly. For example, there's no cash in my business. As I've just said, it's all direct debit, no cash, zero. My staff are all PAYE employees. They're pay slips, contracts, tax, national insurance paid, holiday pay. We don't muck about with any of this they're self-employed, they're not self-employed. Anyone that's watching this, they're not self-employed when people are working for you in your business. I know lots of window cleaning companies that have their cleaners on a self-employed basis. Oh, they rent the van from me, they do this, they do that. Trust me, when the tax man comes to see you and you end up in the courtroom, no court's going to agree that they were self-employed. So another good bit of advice, do things properly, get rid of the cash, then you won't be tempted to have it in a suitcase under your mattress. Don't have your workers as self-employed, employ them. You get a better quality of person when you do that. You have more control over them when you do that. People want the security of a proper job. People want holiday pay. They want to know that they're paid if they're off sick. Yes, it's expensive, and this is what I mean about like your profit margin shrinking, but if you're running your business properly and you've built your business model properly, there should be enough money in that to cope with those things, and there is, or I wouldn't be sitting here.
Have you built your business around, because obviously a lot of guys franchise, don't they? You never wanted to go down that route, is that right? Or were you thinking about it?
It's a good question, and yes, I did think about it. In fact, a few years ago, I was feeling a bit fed up with the running of the business. I had problems in the business, like other people do. I had a couple of vans, 3, and I was up to my eyeballs in problems, and I thought, what about franchising? It seems like a much easier way forward, and it is in some respects, but I spent quite a lot of time looking into that, and I actually reached a point where I had a franchise agreement in place. I'd done the business model. I was actually at a stage where I could have sold a franchise. I never did, and I never pushed to that point, because in the end I felt that there was less money in it for me as a franchisor than as an employer. The real thing about franchising is that person's responsible for themselves. That franchisee is responsible for their own van maintenance, their own equipment, their own work schedule. The franchisor doesn't have all those expenses, but you also don't have the control over that person. And when you really drill down into the financials and the maths of the matter, there just isn't as much money in the franchise model than there is in the employing model. And as I say, you don't have the control. And actually, a friend of mine in the industry who has 10 franchisees said to me in the last year that from this point he's not doing any more franchisees. It's going to be employees, and have a mix of both, but for the same reasons I've just said. I think the franchise model looks really good when you've got 50 or 100 franchisees. Then it's worth maybe having a franchise. I can't imagine what running 100 van employed business would be like. Even I would struggle to get my head around that. But that's where the franchising really helps. But who do we know with 100 franchisees in the UK doing window cleaning? Nobody. So I went down the employee route to have control, and I enjoy running a proper business. It's fun. It's stressful, but I get a lot of fun and satisfaction out of it. And I don't believe you get as much of that out of a franchise. But then you maybe have less headaches. But it depends on the sort of person you are. I'm the sort of person that can cope quite well with a large amount of debt in the business. That doesn't weigh too much on my mind. I cope quite well with managing my employees because I'm an extremely blunt, very black and white person. So, nobody here gets to sort of take the mickey because I run a tight ship. I'm the sort of person that can cope with the stresses, but there are different strokes for different folks, and maybe the franchise route is better for some people. I think the real issue there, and I see this a lot in forums where a one-man band is now going to franchise his business and he's going to start taking on franchisees, and I think that I'm not sure about that, because when a franchisee comes to you, they might be paying £20,000 for a franchise or however much it is, and that person's relying on this person to show them how to do everything and show them how to run a business. I think if I were to franchise now, I would be a better qualified person to help a franchisee after they've invested their own money to go up. I think a lot of people on forums that want to go down the franchise route actually don't really know what they're doing, and it's just an easier way to get that second van on the road. But you have to remember that this person's coming to you as the franchisor to help them grow their business, and might be investing money that's come from who knows where. They might have remortgaged their house or borrowed from their family or taken out an expensive bank loan, and then they're going to put that in your trust and in your hands, So I don't know. There's pros and cons to both. I've gone down this road. Someone I know that went down the other road that has a similar sized business to mine as franchised is now going down this route.
That's interesting.
And I don't know many people that have done both. And also to point out that this person is an extremely successful businessman from a different industry background, and had built a multi-million pound company previously and was far more successful than I've ever been. If he decides that this is the route he's going to go down, there must be something in it. He's someone I respect a lot in our industry here.
So you've got 15 vans. You're going to have 15 vans.
Yeah, we'll
by
have
the end of the year.
within sort of the next 6 to 8 weeks. Our 3 new will be here. So 15, as I said, 14 of those are working vans. 1 becomes a dedicated spare and training van.
Right. So where do you stop? What's the plan moving forward?
Good question. The people that know me are convinced I can't stop, because it does become a bit addictive. And actually it becomes easier and easier the more you go on. It's been very easy for me to put a couple of more vans on the road this year than it was last year. And as it develops, you're learning all the time, you're tweaking your formulas all the time. As the business gets bigger, you've got more money to throw at it. So it seems that like you want to keep going endlessly, and it seems that there is an almost endless amount of work out there in our industry. But in order to answer your question, we have a sort of a 4 to 5 year plan. So at the end of this year, I plan to take a break from any sort of growth, which will be the first time I've ever done that since I started. Every year since I started, it's grown. But at the end of this year, I plan to take a 1 to 2 year break from the growth for several reasons. I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy with COVID. Things are good now, but maybe in the next 12 months that might change. So we're going to have a settling in phase. As I mentioned, I sold my house sort of 4.5 years ago. I haven't actually taken that investment back yet. So over the next couple of years, I will repay my loan to the business in order to buy another property for myself. And I think sometimes the journey of a growing business doesn't have to be a straight line in an upward direction. Sometimes it looks more like a staircase with a growth spurt and a rest. So we're going to take that rest for the next year or two, and then we have a sort of a 2 to 3 year plan to continue growth up to, I would like to get to a £2 million turnover level, which would look something like 22 working vans and possibly 2 or 3 spares at that level. So, you know, sort of a 24 to 25 van business with 22 actually working to generate £2 million as a turnover level. It sounds quite childish. I just like to be able to call it a multi-million pound a year business. So this is why the goal is 2 and not 1.8. So I'm a bit funny like that. I'm that sort of guy that can't have the radio in the car on an uneven number. You know, people are like that. It's like an OCD thing. It's a childish OCD thing. So I want the 2 million turnover, so we can say it's a multi-million pound business. Then there would certainly be no doubt that we would be the largest residential window cleaners in the UK. And at that point I plan to actually stop any growth really from that point. It would only be maintained year on year at that point. Because then the goals switch to other things. You know, this is something I talk about a lot with people when they say to me, "Oh, you'll never stop. You'll get to that, and then it will be 3 million." You know, developing your business and progressing your business doesn't always have to be about making it bigger, more this, more that. It could be, for example, at that level, I would like to buy the premises that we're in. You know, we rent this depot. I would like to own the premises for us somewhere. You know, for extra security and have it even more bespokely fitted out than we have here. Other goals could be selling vans more frequently to replace with newer ones, so your fleet is newer more of the time. You know, additional office staff doing some of the things that I do now, so I can remove myself even further to a point where I would potentially like to be semi-retired within 5 years. So those are the goals on a more long-term basis. I always have goals. That's the sort of person I am.
I think it's important to, though, isn't it? To anybody.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you just stagnate. I might even consider starting some other sort of business. You know, who knows what that might be. But yes, I potentially wouldn't sell my window cleaning business. I enjoy it. I like you know, what I do here, and knowing the things I know about the industry and the people like yourself that I've come into contact with. It's all good fun. But yes, you know, one of those things down the line, as I have more free time, is possibly helping other people more in the industry, like yourself. Dan mentioned earlier in the interview that I do consultation work. I've done this for a few years now for other window cleaners of all sizes, actually. And as I said to Dan earlier, when we were talking privately, the 2 most common scenarios that come to me are people like Dan. You know, one-man operator who's now thinking about making that step to a second van, or an employee in his van with him. That's a very common thing that people come to me with. It's also very difficult. I think that's one of the hardest steps to take at any stage, actually. That first one is hard. And the other one that I see a lot of is where I was myself once upon a time when I was considering the franchising. I had 3 vans on the road, and I was considering the franchising because I was up to my eyeballs in problems. People owing me money, staff problems, you know, just problems with tax bills and this and that. And I was just swamped by it, and I felt fed up with it. And I thought an easy way to cure this was to go down the franchising route, but actually the way to cure it is to change your business model and the way your systems and processes run. So I see a lot of people that come to me with 2 or 3 vans. They're up to their eyeballs in problems. They're actually not earning any more money than they did when they were on their own, but they're actually way more stressed than when they were on their own. So I've helped a lot with that. So anybody that's interested in having my help and guidance is welcome to contact Priors Window Cleaning through our website.
What I'll do, guys, is I'll leave the link to Lee's website in the description below in case you're interested. It's got all your details on there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And just briefly, the things that I can really bring value are, you know, that first step into, as I said, employing multi-vans, VAT, big headache, taking that step and how to manage it. employing people, don't have them self-employed, give someone a proper job, and there's ways to do that. Marketing, you know, money management, staffing in an office, finding a premises, all those things that you know maybe are a problem in your business, and you want to take that next step. So feel free to get in touch, and we can talk about you know how we help each other.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Guys, we're going to end the video there. I know it's been a long one, but this has been, and I'm not just saying it because Lee's here, this video has been the best video. I'm so look forward to doing this. I just want to thank you, Lee, for coming on.
My pleasure.
It's an honour, absolute honour to have you on the channel.
It's an honour to be here, mate. It's flattering to be asked to be on the video. And actually, let me just say one more point. When I sort of was at that one-man stage and I wanted to scale up my business, I spent a long time, it's quite a few years ago now, but I spent a long time looking online for that bigger company, 5 vans, 10 vans, whatever, to look up to or emulate, or even just know that it could be done. And there wasn't one. And people said to me, well, that's because it can't be done, or it would have been done, you know. And I thought, I don't agree with that. I just thought, it's just that no one happens to have done it yet. And that's why I made my decision to move up to this level. But part of why I wanted to come on with this today is it's nice to inspire people, and it's nice to show people that are interested, you know, it can be done. And you can do it as well. Nobody helped me with anything, nobody lent me money, or, you know, I don't have a rich family, I didn't win the lottery, you know, it can be done. And, you know, it's tough, but it's there, and I wanted to show that today.
Yeah, I think you've inspired me, and like I say, if you're interested, guys, details in the description below. Contact Lee, and he'll talk you through it. But guys, thanks for watching. I know it's been a long one, but I really, really appreciate Lee's time. And guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, pop a comment in the box below. I'll see you on the next